Welcome to Q&A at IABA. I'm Jessie Cooper. I'm the owner and a board certified behavior analyst. I'm going to be bringing you a limited series, Q&A at IABA, to answer some of the frequently asked questions that we get both from our own parents and from loved ones who are looking to get services for their loved one with autism. So let's dive in. What great first question to start our series with. That is, what is autism? Get this question all the time. I do want to take a moment and just say, while I am a clinician, I've worked in the field of autism for the past 15 years, I'm coming to you with a lens from a clinician, and I am not a person who identifies as neurodiverse. And so since I don't have the diagnosis as autistic myself, I can talk to you as a clinician, but I can't talk to you from their lens, which is equally, if not more important than the lens I'm going to bring you today. So let's dive in. What is autism? How is it caused? Where does it come from? There's lots of questions out there, lots of research that's still coming out, but really at its core, autism is a neurological difference or disorder in a way a person learns. And so for a person who is autistic, their neural pathways from a very early age aren't forming in the same patterns inside their synapses, their brain, as a person who is not neurodiverse. And so what this means is for a person who is autistic, the connections inside of their brain related to language and communication aren't wired the same way as a person who does not have autism. And this leads to either delays in language, delays in socialization, or different ways of processing the world in order to make sense of a social world with limitations to language and communication. So for a person who is autistic, they can have all different variations of using language or not using language because those neural pathways aren't connected so that they're easily able to pick up communication without one-on-one instruction, without one-on-one teaching. The same is true for, that connection and that social piece of the human experience, that for a person who's neurodiverse, social interactions and connections are harder, not because they're not desired, but because those neural pathways aren't lighting up to say, this is what connection feels like. This is what social interaction feels like. Here are some of the ways to socially interact, and here are the positive outcomes of that interaction. And then on the other side of it, for a person with a diagnosis of autism, they have strengths in their neural pathways in places that we don't. That can lead to a lot of really great pattern thinking, very logical based thinking, and being really great and gifted in many different areas that aren't related to social interaction language, which can look like on a very wide spectrum. It can look like, lining things up and wanting a routine and needing that comfort of consistency, all the way over to Rain Man, where there's this gift and this talent because there's such a fixation on a pattern or something out in the world that's not socially related that lights up the brain and the heart of the person who's neurodiverse, and that's where they choose to spend their time and energy. So what is autism? Autism is a neurodiversity that impacts the way a person who identifies as autistic with the diagnosis processes language, processes communication, and that person who is autistic or has autism also has strengths on a different side of their mind where they're looking into patterns, repetition, and making sense of a non-social world. So I hope this answers your question. I hope it starts you on your journey to learning more and a little bit more insight to a person with an autism diagnosis. And I'm looking forward to coming back to you next week to bring you more on what is ABA. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a good one.